In Unity 6.5, they introduced a way to easily create custom shader graph nodes. It's called the Shader Function Reflection API, and I figured I'd show it off a little bit. So to use it, you can just create a new HLS file. So you can go to create, go to shader, and then empty HLSL. I already have one created though, so I was going to just show it off. So I'm going to open it up. Basically, to create a custom node, once you're inside the HLSL file, you have to make sure at the top of the file that you do the include ShaderApiReflectionSupport.hlsl, and then you have your function, and then above the function, and do note this has to be directly above the function, you have to add the macro for Unity _ export _ reflection. And I'll put this stuff inside the description. That way, if you guys want to like just copy, and you don't have to like manually read and type it out, just so you can test out. And that's technically all you need really to be able to actually create a custom shader graph. If once you do those two things, if you actually go inside of a shader graph, so I'm going to actually go inside of a shader graph real quick. I'm going to just create a new one and just like open it up. I can actually go and I can actually type in scrollingUV, and you'll see, oh, hey, look, we have a custom node that actually matches the HLSL file. You'll notice that when I first pulled it in, though, I have a default value for like timeDelta 2. That's actually what this stuff is for. So you can also add data and shader graph key providers for it, and we can actually go through that. So you can actually say param hints name, and then you can actually say UV. So this name has to match whatever you're actually putting into the function. So if you're passing in a UV variable name UV, you have to match this as UV. Same thing with scrolling speed. You'll see that I also have parameter names for scrolling speed and then so forth. And then inside the parameter hints, you actually tell it what type it is, so float 2. And you can also give it a default. So you'll notice that I have 0 here. And then if I actually go down here to my time delta, I actually have a default of 0.01. And that's why this was actually given a default value. So that's actually how you can give it a default value. And on top of the param hints, you can actually edit the node a little bit, like the display name. So there's actually a thing called function hints. And inside of it, you could do like a provider key, which so far I've noticed like if you're going to be passing in data and stuff, you definitely want to provide a provider key. Or your shader graph kind of like breaks down. Sometimes they'll actually give you error saying you don't have a provider key, even though it's supposed to not be required at the current moment. It might change that though. But you can also give it a display name. So you'll see I have like scrollingUV, so you can actually edit the display name of your node whenever it's pulled in. And you can also give it a search category. So you'll notice I have search category UV /scrollingUV. And that's actually why whenever I like was actually going through here and I did like UV and then like a scrolling, you'll notice that it actually appears like inside like the UV subsection. Also notice that sometimes you'll see a reflected by path. That's actually just showing all your custom shader graph nodes that's being reflected by the shader function reflection API. But you can also see down here, you'll see like UV, scrolling UV, and so forth. Actually did not mean to put the second scrolling UV, because you can actually just put like UV, and then now if I actually go back here, I can actually just type in UV and you'll see that scrolling UV is now at the top. So basically is whatever you put in search category and then another like submenu down for the name of the function. But yeah, so you can actually create custom shader graph nodes very easily. And some reasons why you might want to do that is you might want to like have like create like a just scrolling UV node or something like that. Fun fact about like this method, if I actually go into my project, you'll notice that I actually am working on like a little bloody sword trail. So you might want to have it where like your character will swing a sword and you want the UV to like scroll to make it look like blood is like following like behind the sword trail. So that could be one reason why you might want like scrolling UV and so forth. There are several ways you can like customize this, by the way. Something I plan to make a tutorial on this. Do note the tutorials I'm making, it's not going to be in shader graph. I actually hand wrote this inside a shader, and I'll actually go through and like show people how to actually create actual VFX shaders. But yeah, that's just one thing I want to like just show off. Not really like detailed tutorial. I'll be like actually making more stuff later. I just want to say like, hey, you can actually create like custom shader graph nodes now, which is really cool. All right, that's it.